started. This is the preview of the next release of Compass minus the Compass Next portion. So if you have a copy of the release notes we sent before, first of all, you'll be getting an updated version with the release because we've made a few changes and additions that we want to get to you. But we're going to be going through the non-pilot part of the changes today. So part of the thing, part of the release notes are very they're described well as it is. So we're not going to go and read through every one of the release notes, but we're going to touch on key points that everyone needs to know about. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is we have updated navigation buttons and icons in the case file, and we did that so that they're scalable. So I'm going to go in here and show you that. This is a demo database. All of the data has been scrambled. So you can see here, this is his last name and first name. I can't, even pronounce it. So nothing is what it seems. So in this gentleman here, if we look here, these buttons all up here have changed. So we tried to make everything fit on smaller screens. So some people will have a smaller area versus I'm on a widescreen format, so I have a lot more space to show. But like review missing has changed to just be missing. There's a new button called relevant history, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. You've got your old status button. There's also a new info button for critical information, which I'll show you a little bit later. And then all of these buttons are the same functionality you've had, they're just different icons. So this one right here is the bookmark, where you click on it to bookmark information, and then that will show up in the quick links under the bookmark. See, this is my guy here that just showed up, so I've bookmarked a quick way to get to the next assessment. There's back and forward buttons. These take you back a page or forward a page throughout the application, so you can use those if you want to go back to where you were. This is an undo button. This is the history button that you have to click if you want to be able to right-click on fields and find the history information. The participant detail is now found here, so if I click that, I'm going to see the information about top-level information about the person. And then you've got your print screen, and that just prints a screen. It's not a report. The other thing is we've had this update comments conversation icon for a while, but underneath that now is a new button that you will see immediately, and that is for the to-dos. So I'll talk about that in a minute, but that's what that button is representing there. So all of those things have been updated just because we want them to scale. Before they were picture icons, and so they would all squeeze on top of each other. These ones are going to wrap and show it correctly in any way you're viewing your screen. The next thing that we did that I want to show you is that in any of the grid featured information that like medical providers, pharmacies, wait list, we have had issues in the past where people exited without saving their data, and so we've added a new thing that if you change any information on this on these pages, such as I just changed that, then up at the top it's going to tell you in a banner that says that there's unsaved data detected, so that you know that you need to click this save button or else those changes you put in will be lost. So if you click save, then that will go away and it'll take you back out to your assessment. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the critical information. In the, first of all, I'm going to go back to the case file selector. And the first thing I wanted to show you is what this can look like. If a person has critical information entered for the case, then when anybody searches for the person, this phone number field is going to be red with a flag on it. So that's to let anybody know that if you're going to be contacting this person, you need to go look at what that critical information is, because that may be important to even making a phone call about the person. So if someone was on vacation and taking over your case, or a supervisor or a receptionist is maybe possibly getting in here, they would have access to get to know that there's some information that needs to be entered. This is one of the first steps that got talked about in the plan of care paperwork reduction rewrite, and everybody wanted a way to be able to track important information that they need people to know before contacting the client. So then if you go inside the case, you'll see in the episode, well, first of all, there's the button here. Remember when we were in before that was grayed out? It's now red. And if you click it, it's going to go straight to the episode on the left. And this is where critical information and relevant history exist. So anytime you want to update that information, you just go in here and type your note. So for instance, I put in here that he doesn't want daughter to know of his condition. Okay, so you may use this that it's a visit that requires 2 individuals due to safety reasons. Don't talk to the daughter or anything like that. Things that you flagged cases for in the past manually, you can now use this instead so that it's stored electronically. And then the relevant history piece, we have the shortcut button for that as well. It'll take here, but this is more about the assessments that you're doing and things that you don't need to document every single assessment and have it carried forward because it's never going to change. It's things that are important about the case that you want to make sure are documented, but it doesn't need to be done everywhere and repeatedly throughout all of the assessments that they have. So this was a way to help reduce redundancy. And so, for instance, I put an example in here that they have a TBI due to an auto accident in 2007, something that's not changing. So that information is eventually going to show up on the new plans of care. So you'll want to start using that now if there's any information that you want to track that way. There may be, I'm assuming most people will have something, but there's chances that there may not be relevant history to a person. But over time you may develop some. So that would be where that information is stored. So then I want to show you the to-do slide bar. So when we click on that icon, the to-do items are going to show up. And this isn't going to be available to everyone right away. The only thing that you're not going to have available to you is a way to see them in a nice pretty list that tells you who's due when and what. But if you open up a case, you can see all of the to-dos that they have available in the order that they're due on. These are all right now in here system reminders that we've put in. So we have that this one is due on September 2nd, the 30-day contact, and that's based on the prior monthly contact that's in the progress note. So that's when this next one's going to be due. This one here is the Medicaid redetermination. This is due. They're due for that to be renewed on October 31st. And then the next assessment is due on January 22nd, and that's based on your assessment interval. 30-day contacts, also, they're only applicable to certain programs because not every program has 30-day contacts. It would be all of the waiver-related codes, TCM, NIFTY, I think that's it, but it's documented in their user guide, so you'll be able to reference that. So in here, it defaults to the not completed, but you could also flip the switch to see completed. I don't know if I have any right now. I don't. The other thing you can do is right here, you can add your own. So again, for right now, for those of you that aren't part of the pilot, this is going to be a while till you see these. Probably we're thinking October 3rd is probably when everybody will get in the water. But you can use this feature if you want, and you know that, okay, I know I have to do something with this case, but I can't remember what I wanted to do, then you can pull it open. But so if I put in, let's say, call dentist, and that as a title, and then call the dentist for latest date seen, whatever you want to use it for. And then there's these due on and remind me on. So the due date is the date that you want to have done it by, and remind me on is telling you when do you want to be notified that you remember to do this. So for instance, I may know that Friday I have to do it absolutely, but I want to remind myself at 3 o'clock this afternoon because I'm not going to have an appointment and I could take care of it then. Okay, so you could change this then either by using the calendar button or by just changing the text here. That works too. It just has to be in this format. And then you click OK, and then that's going to show up on the top because it's before the first one here that you can do that. And then in here on your user added to do items, you can complete these. You can see how this is enabled right now, but the completed is not on any of these other three. That's because these completed are driven by data changes that you make over here. So Excuse me. So for the custom user added ones, you can mark completed right here, and it's going to do that, and then it takes it off your list, except you can always get it back by going to the completed. These edit icons allow you to edit the to-do, so you can come in and do that. For instance, if you accidentally marked it complete and you didn't want to, you can come in here and uncheck it, click OK, and then it goes back onto the not completed section. You could also go in here and delete these user added ones. So you cannot delete system reminders because they're by default going to be there. And again, they'll change based on the data you enter. But you can delete these if you want to delete them versus complete them. Maybe it's no longer relevant. So you just click delete, confirm, and then it goes away. Okay. All right, actually I'm going to pause here because I see there's questions and I want to make sure I answer them. Where is Medicaid redetermination date pulling from? That's a very good question. The Medicaid redetermination date is found in the participant record here at the top. And if we scroll down, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get rid of that other screen you guys can't see. In here, this is one of the other things I wanted to show you that I haven't got to yet. Currently, you have a field now for Medicaid recertification date. We're also going to be loading the recertification dates from the 271 eligibility files that we're receiving as part of the encounters process. So in this case, the user had entered the right date, but now that we're adding the data from our files that we've been collecting for quite a while now, then now this shows up, which validates that they had the right date. But this is what's coming straight from CHAMPS. So this date here can override this date. If you change this to a future date, or more recent than than this one, then that will change what this Medicaid redetermination due is. So if I change this to say, I already did this, it's all taken care of now, it's October 2017, I'm pretending, then that will change this guy. So that means that if CHAMPS is wrong and CHAMPS is wrong, you can override it by putting in a more recent date here, okay? Because the CHAMPS information right now is kind of older, because well, not older, but it's based on when people create encounter badges. So they may not be as up to date as they could be. So in the future, we're planning to do that 270, 271 eligibility requests on demand that you could be doing monthly or whatnot, and therefore you could have more up-to-date information coming from CHAMPS because of that. So that's what the Medicaid recertification information is, and that will show up over on the right-hand panel here. Okay. All right, so where was I at here? Oh, well, I was right here anyway. This was one of the first things. Okay, so we have that. The other new fields we've added is we have now an LOCD renewal date that you can input and the application ID that comes from the CHAMPS LOCD. So you now have the ability to track that. These would be the date that you need to do it again, not the date you did it. So that in the future we plan to add some more to-dos from the system triggers like Medicaid recertification has to trigger when you need to do the next LOCD. So in the meantime, we can develop some scripts in Clear Access to pull that information, but this is where you can now store that information starting with the Friday release. We also added upon request the annual enrollment to field office date. So again, that's the due date, the annual release of information sign date, and then we've got liquid nutrition and oxygen renewal dates available. So all of these you can input the due dates so that we can track those, and we can write scripts to track that information for you. The other thing I wanted to show you in participant is at the bottom here, the change SSN, you no longer can change that from the participant record. We've talked about it with all of you at one point in time, and it was decided it became more of a problem because it was getting changed here but not at the intake level, which is where they really meant for it to change. So this is now disabled, and you have to use the Compass Assistant in order to change the SSN for anybody now. Okay. All right. The other thing that's new in the wait list records, there is, if you click the edit button, there is now a history button that you can then pull up the history on this record. So you can see here that this basically hasn't changed since it got added for this person. So August 21st, it got added by me, technically, nothing's been changed because they all insert records. And then you just click back to get back to here. So we just added that so that you guys could view the history to see what's been changed on this record and when. Okay. The next information I want to talk about has to do with the NIFTY. So I'm going to come back out here and go to the NIFTY list. And in here, I'm going to search for my person I'm looking for. Okay. This here is a new thing the state wanted to be able to do. They want to be able to deny notices. Okay, so there's now a new transition stage. It's part of the filter in here of notice denied. And that is to basically close out the notice. Instead of having you to go through the whole process, that notice denied means that that transition diversion record is done. It stops. Okay. And one thing I want to mention about that too is that just because this notice is denied, you're able to add another notice for the exact same date if you need to try again. And it may be that, they deny it because you were having someone else contract to do the work, etc. That whole, you guys know what I'm talking about more than I do. And so that other agency is going to need to add the new notice. And they can do that on the very same interview date that you got denied for. Okay. The other thing is there's new close reasons that have been added. If I filter on close transitions, let me go in here. So if I open this guy up, we'll see in the NIFTY results underneath these new ones here. I believe it's can't remember. It's health. Starts with health declined. Yeah. Good thing I wrote notes to myself. So these below here, not others been there, but these are all brand new close reasons that the state wanted you to be able to use if you need to close a transition or diversion. We also have prevented you now to have approved exceptions for NIFTY denied notices, so that can't happen. So that's basically the state, not you. Then the other thing is we had an issue where the barriers, if you had the person marked as diversion, then they were allowing you to select barriers. So we've changed that to fix that because you're not supposed to select barriers for a diversion person. The other thing that everyone would be happy about is you no longer have to enter the QOL survey to transition or close them. The old ones will still be there, but you no longer have to enter them. That's no longer required, so you don't have to do that faking out of adding QOL that really didn't happen. The other thing that I didn't know if you noticed this, but when I came in here, you see this is all now expanded. We've changed it so that when you open up from the NIFTY selector, the NIFTY nodes are automatically going to expand so that you just have to click around versus having to click each one of these to get drilled down to the information. So let me just go back and show you. So I was in, NIFTY selector, sorry. So let's just pick on this guy. When I open him up, see, it's all expanded. So it makes it a little bit quicker for you guys to enter the information you need to. And then if you're in search case files, and I'm going to do a different search along these same lines. Which one was I supposed to do? Open transition, this one. Then if you click on NIFTY, it auto opens it all up too. So even if you didn't go in that way, if you just click on NIFTY, it auto expands it. So hopefully that helps people, with their jobs to not have to waste time drilling down to where they need to be. We've also added a NIFTY notes summary, which I have under a different client. Let me go find that. Let's see, he's under, I think here. Yeah. So if you add Nifty Notes, now there's a summary here that will show you that information. So you don't have to look at each individual note. It's gonna show there. The other thing that's different is that the Nifty files have been renamed in their convention of how they show here. So it does the date and the time, and then it does the type, so MFP consent, then the agent, then the actual file name you gave it. Okay, so that's going to show for all of your Nifty files in the future, just to help distinguish between them so that everybody's not hunting and pecking for the right file, was the theory behind that. All right, I have some questions. The sound keeps going out. Interesting. I hope others aren't having similar issues, because I haven't done anything. All right, we'll just keep going. The next thing I want to show you, well, I guess I want to tell you about in the assessment, which I'm not in one right now. Let me go back to my guy. Okay. Oh, I have another question. Oh, sound is fine here. Good. Glad to hear. Thank you. Oh, but somebody else is experiencing issues cutting in and out. Huh, very strange. I'm using my computer's microphone, so I don't know what that would be. Anyway, what I want to tell you is that the in the completed sections, all of these, the dates and times and the finalized date and time are now showing. Before it was just showing the date, even though the time was stored. So we fixed that to now show you the time as well on that, which can matter when it involves, when you're looking at the history and trying to figure out, when somebody last synced compared to when it was finalized, then you now have times involved in that. We also fixed the assessment report. I'm not going to show it to you, but all of the assessment reports, they had issues. Well, they had the question text and was using an old way of doing it, was to report question text was behind the scenes really. And we found out that one of the fields, the activity level that used to be stamina, it was still saying it was an activity level. Somebody just found this recently, so we've got that in the new release so that the reports print the right question. So that's fixed, as well as that lovely pain scale question that always looked kind of funky. That's now fixed as well, and we'll show you, it's clean. There's no issue with that one. So that's nice. And then in the social worker assessment, we have some new fields. The first one is in here. Agency folder was provided and reviewed with participant. So that's a requirement you guys have now. So it's located under the person rights and responsibilities if you have that field enabled with the flex. But this is going to show up for everybody to meet immediately. So now you can mark that. And then in section D, the person chooses to live has been added right under the living arrangement. That's something else you're also supposed to document, part of the new federal plan of care, person-centered stuff. So that's been added. The other thing that you will love, for those supports coordinators on the line, is that in the ICD-9 and medications, technically, the add process, we have fixed this this interface here. And so before, it only showed you a few things and you couldn't actually get to what you were really trying to get to. Did I spell it right? Okay. So if I type in hypoglycemia, now I have a long list with scroll bars. See? Okay. And then it also has the scroll to the right so you can see the whole text. So you can see that these guys start with hypoglycemia, and then you can keep scrolling till you find the one you really want. So hypoglycemia unspecified. And then what happens is once it gets through those ones that match, it starts from the beginning. So this is the very first code in the ICD-9 lookup, or 10, I'm sorry. So typhoid arthritis. So at this point on, it's the rest of everything else. So once you see A0104, then it doesn't match what you typed anymore, but everything above that will. So then you just select this, and go on your way. So that should be a little easier for trying to find some of these crazy things. I can't help what the descriptions say, unfortunately. Those come straight from CMS. So when they don't make any sense of how they decided to shorten it up, that we didn't do that. That's uncontrollable by us, but the rest of it, that searching part, we fixed for you. The other thing that is going to be very, I think, alarming to supports coordinators is medications. Medications, while we've improved it, the reason I say it's alarming is that this person right here, I haven't clicked on it yet, it doesn't look like they have any medications because there's no plus sign. You know, we have plus signs for all these things, but where's my plus sign for medications? Well, if you notice, medical providers and pharmacies don't have that either. So when you click on medications now, here's your summary like you're used to seeing and your allergies below. So that hasn't changed, but what has changed is now you don't edit them all in a list like you do diseases, for instance. People wanted to be able to just go through and edit them all at the same time, so we've fixed it and changed it to a grid entry that you click the edit button, and here is your full medication list. Okay, so you can add them through this add up here. So it's very similar to your medical providers and pharmacies, so it shouldn't be anything new to you in how to do it. It's got the improved search mechanism in here now. And so now you get all the different Tylenols and can scroll, okay? This one doesn't show you all medications. We'd be here all day if we did that. So then you can choose, you know, it's that Tylenol. But this is otherwise the same thing you're used to. You know, show me the default. You can click to add it. And it shows up in alphabetical order, but it's highlighted so you know right where you landed. You can come in here and edit these. If this changes 10, then you can come in here and say, oh, nope, that's 20. Whoops, not 120. Ugh, come on. And then hit enter, and then it'll go away, or you click done. It's, you know, if it's PRN, you click yes, it exits by itself, so it's a little bit faster. The reviewed this visits, you can just check, go to the next one, check. I mean, it's still kind of not great, you know, but it's much faster than going into every single medication like you had to before. So now you have a big, you know, a full view of what that information is. Now, the one thing we lost with changing this to the grid entry, and I say lost, but it's only temporary, is we no longer have a review missing for medication information. But at the same time, it's all right here in front of your face. So technically, you could just look at it and know that, oh, well, these plus signs, that means that's missing. Okay, if you see no selection like this, that's missing. Okay, so those two things will indicate to you pretty quickly that, you know, the information's missing. Again, unsaved data, this is going to be super important to remember for medications because you're not used to it. Make sure you save, because if you leave this page, you know, to go to, let's say I go up here and I start typing, I want to go to my email, and you overwrite this page, that data you just did is not saved anymore. So make sure you're clicking the save button when you get done with the medications. And I would edit everything all at once. I would not edit a med and save and come back and edit another one and save. That, because every time you click save, it's going to kick you back to the medication summary. So then you have to click edit again and go through it again. So you want to edit it all at one time. All right, I have a question. We had a question that goes back to the earlier on when we were talking about the critical information. The critical information is not going on the care plan. That's just the relevant histories going on the care plan. So critical information is only in our system. It's not going to show on any reports. So it's only for your use. That's a very good point. I'm glad you brought that up. In the medications grid, include a one-click confirm reviewed by instead of two. Yeah, I'm not sure if we can do that. They're saying when we clicked the reviewed and we had to click and then check and then it went away. So that's 2 clicks versus 1. It's a possibility. We'd have to look into that. And yes, this is being recorded for a later viewing. Somebody just asked that as well. Okay. All right. What else do I want to show you? I'm making sure I covered what I needed to. The other thing that you guys will like is that the durable medical equipment, We have converted all of the others to other one. All right, so anybody that already had an other, and that's because we've added the ability to add 2 more or 3 more others than other. So if you go in the list now, at the bottom you have other 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you will be able to add some extras that aren't in the list. Before you only had the 1 other and couldn't do much with it. So now you have a few more choices. We are planning to expand this list with the next release after this, to add some more things that we've been talking about with our design calls. So that will be coming as well. So that'll help as well in that DME section. The progress notes, I'm not going to do this, but it says that well, actually, I can just do it. Why not? Okay, so if you take a progress note and you click add and you type, you change your date or leave it, whatever. When you click the add button, before it just kind of sent you into nowhere land in the progress note record, now it's going to automatically put your cursor in this notes field. So you can immediately start typing your note. So when it says change focus to note field, that's what that references. That's kind of more tech speak that you may not know what that meant. But so yeah, so you can just click add, change the date and time to whatever it should be if needed, click OK, and then you come straight and can start typing. You don't have to click back in this field to do that. So we've also added a new assessment interval. We had 80 or 90 and 180, and now we've added 365. That's mostly for use for the My Health link, but if you have other programs that are not Waiver, because Waiver can't use that, you can also use that 365, and that will also fix the to-dos to be the right interval there as well. All right, I've got a few. Somebody's asking if the medication data has been edited, why isn't the reviewed button automatically checked? The reason that would be is because we don't know that you actually looked at everything. You may have touched one thing and not looked at anything else in that list. So, and if you edit it, maybe you weren't done editing it, and you had to go and come back. So we don't want to ever presume that somebody's reviewed a medication. It's always going to have a check mark that they're going to say, yes, I'm done. Stopped medications are listed on the grid too. Yes, they are. So if you want to keep them on your list for that assessment, then you can they'll still show up, but you may end up wanting to delete them if they're so old it doesn't matter anymore. That's up to however your agency policy is on that. All right, we have another question. If you click the monthly contact in progress note, does it update the to-do list? Yes, it does. So since I'm right here, I'll do this. When I check, well, let me show you this first. Let's drag this out before I click monthly contact. So 30-day contact is due September 2nd right now. And so this is the 25th. When I check this box here, it just changed that from the 2nd to the 24th. So that's how these are getting updated. So it just keeps changing them as you do work. Okay. That was a good point to bring up. Okay, we also added a new validation on closing the episode. We've had issues for 2 things. One is that we weren't showing you all of the error messages that will occur when you close an episode, because there's so many different things that could be an issue, that we're now going to show you all of them before you exit and go fix one thing and come back and just to find out there's another problem. We're also added in a warning that if you have any open NIFTY or waitlist records, it's going to warn you about those as well. It won't prevent you from closing it, but it will tell you that you have them so that you know you need to go close those out as well. Okay. The other thing I was going to show you, whoops, I got a question, just a second. Will supports coordinators be able to delete progress notes? They have the same ability that they have now. We haven't changed any of that. If they have the ability to delete, they can, but once it passes that lock days that your agency has set in the agent preferences, then they won't be able to delete unless they have the never see record locks permission. So that's the same. We haven't changed anything about that. Okay. So the next thing I want to show you is the supports coordinator status changed just a slight bit, in that we now are showing the full name. We had agencies that, they're growing and they got people now with the same initials nearly, and so they can't figure it out. So now it shows you the name in here, as well as the coordinator initials. You can type, the last name, the first letter, and it'll go to that in the list. So if I go S, then I get to that sports coordinator, okay, and then you click it and go away. So that has been added to help with those issues there. And then these names that are showing up here are coming from their managed users record. So if their names are misspelled in there, then you need to go have somebody go into Compass Managed Users to change that. Okay. We've also fixed it so that only active supports coordinators and supports coordinators assigned to the episode are shown in those drop-down lists. So if the person no longer works there, it will show up still because they, were a supports coordinator for that case in the past. But if they weren't a supports coordinator in another case, they won't show up anymore, if that makes any sense. But we had tried to, you guys have, like I said, added more people. People have left your agencies, and so it was getting to be a long list of irrelevant sports coordinators. So we've now made that so that it'll be definitely more usable for you. Okay. The other thing I want to point out that we do this every time is in the help, we do update these user guides religiously, okay? So anything having to do with the case file is in the case file one. Basics is actually where the next is going to be because I've got lack of place to put it until we re-engineer it. But basics will be all about the tools of the, all of the agent-specific data, the Compass Assistant, the basic button workings, the minimum requirements to use Compass, etc. We've got a single guide for status alone, MIG waiting list, NIFTY, and claims. So if you guys have questions and after this webinar and it didn't answer your question, after the release that is, these will go out with the release, the new updated ones are not there now. Then please, read the user guide. And so, because we're going to have a lot of people calling with possible issues, and especially with the pilot going on, there's going to be some confusion going on. So that'll just help reduce our timeliness, I guess, on feedback for anybody else, if you guys will use that first. Okay. Someone asked if we fixed the fields from jumping when we tab on the supports coordinator status. There was a problem with Internet Explorer that we did fix, that the tabbing was skipping fields and then keeping the prior selections, and we fixed that. Okay. Let's see. We also, the sync conflict resolver, I'm not going to show this to you, but in that sync conflict resolver list there, it shows the person, and then it shows you the number of conflicts the person has to the right. Well, before, people were having unexpected errors using that, and it's because they were double clicking or more on that, because either A, they just double clicked, or B, they thought, it can't possibly take this long, which it can, and then clicked it again and then get the error. So we fixed that so that it's not going to let you do that anymore, so you won't get that unexpected error. You just have to wait for it to show up. It depends on how much is involved. That is why it takes the time it takes, because it's pulling all the audit logs in the background. So that was nice. And then Compass Go, in the sync selector, we've added the date of birth to the sync columns, and also if you hover over the person in the row, then it's going to show you their last 4 SSN and intake date as well. So hopefully that helps identify people that have like the same names that you have on your caseload. So that's something that was important too. With capitation, we did make a change to the kicker payment detail report. We had an issue that if you had services that were the T codes 1023, 1028, and 2038, that shows up if that determines whether or not there's an expected payment. And if they totaled 0 for the month, if this is hard to explain, but you will have people that, if you're one of those agencies that initially post the services immediately when they're still in the nursing facility, and then later go back and change the date to the actual waiver start date, you may have issues that you didn't maybe even know about, that this kicker payment detail was not reporting an expected payment for them. So that has been fixed. So you may want to go back when we get the new release out and run those to see if there's any changes that you weren't expecting to be there. But I mean, some of you know because you alerted us to it, but those kinds of situations was causing it because it looks for the min month. It saw the min month was the prior month. For instance, they came out in August, but I posted the bills in July. So the July bill dates then get changed to August, which are different months. So July was saying, oh, no, they're not waiver in July. They can't get an expected payment. And so it was counting them even though you'd zeroed them out and moved them to the August dates. So that's the issue with that, is when those happened on a different month. So it may not be everybody, but anybody that had a crossed month like that. We also, in the encounters and claims, there's the verified not sent report available to you. We added the agent CRN and Medicaid ID to that because we found that that would be very helpful for you to know, especially with the encounters, if there's an agent CRN listed on there, that means that they got sent before and that they were rejected for an eligibility issue, most likely, unless I've contacted you otherwise. And then you can use that Medicaid ID to go look up the eligibility and CHAMPS without having to go somewhere else and try to look up that information. So the ones that don't have an agent CRN mean that those are new bills that were posted verified. Either new bills posted verified since the batch was sent, okay, so if you didn't run it immediately after the batch was created and bills got added, or they were on your error reports and so they never got sent. So that's what so you can know that by a glance. We also changed the email list of who it prompts you for that you can check to send an email to when the 271 is returned in there, that only the users with add change permission are going to show up, and only if they have an email address. Because we are having issues where there's a whole bunch of supervisors and whatnot that have access to see the reports in there, and they were showing up in the list, and they wouldn't care if the 271 got back because they're not going to do anything about it when the email comes. So we fixed that so that the list can show the right amount of right people for that. Okay. Somebody's saying they're having problems understanding and the screen's cutting in and out. I wonder if that's on your end because I haven't got many other people complaining. The screen is not frozen. I just haven't done anything with it. So I'm just talking at this moment. So that's okay. And everything else in there I think is pretty self-explanatory. If anybody does have a question about anything else, if you have it now, we can answer it on the call. Otherwise, we can answer it later. Okay. Are there any questions? Okay. All right, well, if there's I do have a question. It's just being the devil. Okay. New release notes. I can send those out today so that you have that and you can pass it along before the day because we're not changing those at this point. So yes, somebody asked if we could send them out today, so we can send that. Another comment, they like the additions and features. Thank you. We know that this is a lot and we hope it helps. We wanted to do this webinar because there's some very key changes that need to be passed down to your supports coordinators, especially the medications. It's a very different world for them, but I think they'll really like it. So, all right, with that being said, that's all we have to show you for today. And if you have questions, please email helpstar@cmag.com after the release, or, preferably first look at the user guides. So thank you guys.